growth. You may stunt the growth of a guy that may be in 5 weeks ready to roll. He may pass somebody up. So you want to keep that alive and well as long as you can. So I'm enjoying it. We're 8 days in, and it's gone well, and I think we'll just keep that flow going.
Yeah, I mean, Kirk's never been afraid to rotate even in season.
Yeah,
is that something you'd be open to, I guess?
Oh, always. Yeah, always. I think if someone, logically, if someone leaps ahead and bounds ahead of the other two, then he's probably going to get the lion's share. If it's even, then you try to find a way to work both of those guys, because it's a long season.
Yeah.
And then what you don't want to do is shut things down and play one guy and then the other guy's even with him, and then something happens and that guy has to go in and you think, gosh, if I just rotated those guys. So those are some things you think about at night.
So when we get to see you guys one time, so should we not read too much into whoever's out there first tomorrow, or should we?
I probably would not.
Okay.
I probably would not.
That's good. That helps us do our jobs.
Yeah, because right now we're to be honest with you, we're just rotating by day.
Yeah.
And we're going to keep that same flow going.
What have you liked about Bryce George? We haven't seen him at all, obviously.
I like his attitude.
Yeah.
He's a physical kid. He's a smart, really smart kid. Good football player. He's played a lot of football. His big deal is transitioning to Big Ten football, and then transitioning into a new offense. I mean, that's a big piece of this thing. And and he's highly competitive. So he and I have talked about, hey, buddy, just hang in there. If you have one bad play or one, I'm going to tell you the same thing I'm telling Trevor and Goats. Like, it's a process. But he's, the other two have been in the offense for a little bit longer, right? And they've been in the program for a little bit longer. Everything's new to Bryce. I think he's done a tremendous job, and I think he's going to continue to do that.
Do you see Cade Peeper fitting in at right guard? And have you ever had a lineman like him where he's a little on the quote-unquote smaller side at 290? I think he was, 240 coming in? What do you like about his game and his athleticism? Because that's the thing that kind of jumps off the page for us.
Yeah,
just looking.
I've been around plenty of quote undersized guys that play oversized, and he's going to be one of those guys. He's going into his first year of getting thick varsity action, so he's going to have some bumps along the way. But his response to adversity and response to a play that didn't go perfect has been pretty good, and he's really improving. Last year he played a little bit of tight end, was very athletic, very aggressive, smart kid. Now he's playing a little bit more at guard. He'll get some center reps in fall camp also. But you're starting to see him play with his feet up underneath him. It's just the game's coming to him, which that's how it should go. It's not like, hey, you're going to get some reps with the ones and you got to go perfect today. And now we're missing the boat. At the end of the day, training camp is training camp. You practice for a reason. And as long as our kids have that in mind at right guard and left tackle, then we're going to be pleased with the results. And at the end of the day, look at the three other guys, the seniors. They have the same outlook. It's the same things I tell those guys. And those three have improved quite a bit from spring. Just little things. They're not going to be jumping. Logan Jones, a dunk, and a bow aren't going to take the leaps that these younger guys are going to take. But you can see little improvements along the way that are really, really fun to watch.
Guard-wise, is Bo? I heard he might be a little dinged up. Is he available?
I think he's going to be available. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what have you gotten to see with him out a little bit? I know you got
Zielinski,
Zielinski, you got Leighton Jones. Who else?
It's been good. Leighton
there?
Jones has gotten more reps. He's one of those kids that's just steady. And he's always been that way. And we're talking about a high school state champion, heavyweight wrestler, and highly competitive kid, confident kid. He's worked with the ones a little bit at left guard.
Okay.
Been fun to watch. And he's only going to get better. He's just in that. He's going into his third year. He's going to be a redshirt sophomore. Him and Trev and Cannon, those three guys are really starting to get some work there. Bryce has gotten some work at guard also, for two reasons: to build depth at guard, and also to help him learn the offense faster. Sometimes you got to be careful doing it too much, but sometimes if he knows exactly, if he's felt what the next guy is supposed to be doing, it helps him learn, because that's his biggest challenge right now, is that acceleration of learning the offense and getting a feel for it.
Have you kept him on the same side then? Even though he's been okay.
I have. There might be a time where we kick him to right just to work him on both sides. But we're trying to. It's that fine line between doing enough with a kid, but be careful doing too much.
Sure.
But I think we got a nice rhythm with him right now.
And Jennings would just stay at the right.
He's staying at the right.
Yeah, I mean, I knew he would,
staying
but
at the
he's
right.
not even flipping in practice.
No.
Just because you got to figure that out.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, he's staying at the right. Bo's staying on left.
Yeah.
Logan's staying in the middle.
Yeah, I hope so.
But Dunk's been fun to watch. I tell you, he's. Last year we really saw him come along and
Yeah.
be fluid in the run game and kind of take ownership in the run game. And his challenge in the offseason this year was to get that into the pass protection game. He was pretty good at it, but he was surviving a little bit off his brute strength. He's made some pretty nice jumps over the last couple of weeks of just his playing more square. He's always been good with his upper body. Now his feet are underneath him, and kind of like Peeper talking, same thing. If you can get a kid that plays stacked like that with his feet up underneath him and in control of his body, it kind of changes the way he feels playing the game. And Dunk's starting to see that in the pass game.
Okay.
When did you kind of see it click for Dunk? I mean, he's got a bunch of experience, but I remember even his freshman year, like you were talking about, his teammates were talking about, this kid's going to be really, really good. You just need to kind of wait it because I think somebody said he had a Hall of Fame work ethic or something. But you could see the upside. It was a teammate, not a coach. But I guess when did you kind of see it like really begin to take full shape?
I think
Not that he's ever a polished product. I get that.
It's kind of like the whole room, like take last year's seniors and then this year's group, the seniors. You saw them in an environment where they were learning fast, learning in the fire. And I've been fortunate enough, or I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, but I feel it's fortunate. I've been through a lot of playing young kids and building them back up and things like that. I think one job I walked into where it was ready-made. The rest of them have been like, hey, here, have fun. So, but what happens is you get used to seeing a kid what he's going to be, because if that kid doesn't believe that, if I panic in 2021 or 2022, we got problems. So I've in some of the jobs I've been in, I've always had to get really good at steadying the boat, getting belief into that kid that it's going to work out. And Dunk's one of them, because the personality, the work ethic, those things you said, David, like when the kid has those things, like Logan Jones, we're flipping the ball and hey, go play center. That's that's not easy. But you knew who he was, you knew his makeup, you knew his family, like you knew what he was about. So you always knew it was going to be good. But sometimes when a kid's in the fire like that, he starts to doubt himself. So somewhere in that room, an adult's got to be able to tell that kid, I got you. So you see it, to answer your question, you see those sparks in kids, you know what's coming. And then you stick with that kid and make sure you pump belief into that kid that he's going to be, there's going to be some really good days. It may not be today, but there's going to be some really good days.
Remember, I asked I asked Logan at Big Ten Media Days about, obviously the comparisons Tyler Linderbaum were completely unfair by everybody because of what Tyler accomplished, right? But then you look at in-state kid, high-level wrestler, standout athlete, same number, defense to offense, and he admitted there were a couple times where he really kind of he even said he had a big head. He walked around like the man on campus, and then he got humbled fairly quickly in his first year. I guess when you were kind of transitioning him into center, did you have a conversation about like don't look at what Tyler accomplished? This is your kind of journey and all of that. And did you have to do that just because of what Tyler accomplished?
Yeah, he said he had a big head. He's about as humble as you can possibly get. Now, so his
I agree.
His not being humble might be like, I haven't seen that one, but he didn't have to say much to him. His dealing with him in 22 and 23 was basically saying, keep doing what you're doing. Like you're doing good things, you're improving. You're not going to, some days you're not going to feel it, but I see it. Like I'm looking from afar. Like you stick with it. You stick with this process. And those were easy conversations because he's that kid, and very few kids can be thrown in that situation and come through it like he has, and really proud of him. And he's not the only one. This room, you take last year and this year, that room's full of guys that it's just really I have a ton of respect for those kids and how they've handled themselves and how they continue to handle themselves. But they're less worried about that now. We got work to do. Let's just get better.
I don't know if I've ever asked you this, but were you a little bit surprised when Logan decided to come back for another year? I mean, it just seemed like he didn't even think twice about not going to the NFL.
We talked last year after the season, and I brought him in. I said, hey, buddy, let's talk about it. I owe you this conversation. Here's your options. I'll help you either way. He doesn't owe anybody anything. That kid's given everything he's had to Iowa football and the University of Iowa. So I said, you don't owe anybody anything. This is about you and your future family. But here's your options. Here's my opinion on some things. And he kind of cut me off halfway through and said, Coach, I'm good. But that's who he is. He's got a maturity level that's very unique, and he's a special kid. But when you meet his mom and talk to his high school coaches and things like that, you know who he is, what he's made of.
I mean, I think Kirk likes to do he's a 40-year-old next door neighbor, like type of guy that'd mow your lawn. Like, I mean, the guy's married now. Like, Ethan Hurt gets married now, and it's kind of 2 6-year guys been coming back and just kind of continuing to establish that culture. And then you kind of think back to those hard times. You credit those kids for, sticking with the process and really trusting, I guess. How gratifying is it for you as a coach to see, hey, you guys, I know you guys really lock into what you do inside the walls, but it's impossible to just really kind of avoid all the outside noise, I guess. How much gratification, how much pride do you feel for those kids that they continue to stick with the process?
Yeah, it's my pride in that room is very high, and I'll defend them and I don't care who it is. I know what those kids have worked through, and I know the belief they have in themselves, and they've done it themselves. They're the ones that had to believe. A coach can say whatever he wants to do, but those kids have to take it by the horns, and they've done that. They're continuing to do that, and I've always been that guy that's got my players' backs, but it's to an extreme the last 2 years.